That's really cool. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the More Listings Mastermind. I'm your host, Robert Weichelt. Today is going to be awesome. I really appreciate you jumping on. Today's More Listings Mastermind is going to be unlocking short sale success. We've got a great friend of mine out of Rhode Island who, in my opinion, is the short sale mind, just an amazing mind in that space. And I'm bringing him to you today. So I can't wait to bring him on. I'm joined also by my partner guest, John Allen, with Barrett Financial. First the loan, then the home. That's our motto, right, John? So we'll go ahead and bring him up here in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and start with a little bit of housekeeping. Anybody out there that goes to the gym will understand that you don't go to the gym one time, do a curl, and you're all set, you're all in shape. Well, real estate's no different. It's important that we do the basics every single day. We do them at a very high level. So I like to go into some housekeeping. But before I forget, you can join us each Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Go to morenowlistings.com and you just jump on live. There's no need to register. So with that said, why the weekly mastermind? Well, it's a weekly mastermind for power, growth, and momentum, and it all starts with the More Listings Mastermind. Why people ask me, why should I join each week? Well, it's simple: to take more listings in 2026 and beyond. Each week, we provide proven systems to win listings, generate multiple offers fast, maximize seller profits, work smarter, not harder. That's really the name of the game, guys. So who am I? My name is Robert Weichelt. I'm the host of the More Listings Mastermind. Each week, we bring great guests from all over the country. This week's no different. I've been serving the real estate industry since 1986. I've had the privilege of helping thousands of sellers, countless agents in every type of market, broker, trainer, mentor. My mission is very simple, guys: empower others to grow, win, and lead with purpose. So with that said, my specialty is helping agents take more listings, more now listings, whether it's a FSBO, expired, pre-foreclosure, getting positioned for the REO space. That is where I come from. My most powerful tool for you as well. And that's how Danny and I actually met, is the REO space. So I can't wait to reshare a few of those fun times. We'll probably not tell all the stories, but we're going to certainly tell some good ones. I always like to start off with a quote. This is a very important quote. The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. And that's Vince Lombardi. Another quote that my dad taught me literally the first day I got in the business back in February 14th, 1986. He's all, Bobby, that's what he called me then. It works if you do. That's a big quote, and I live by those words every single day. So let's talk about the basics we need to be doing, then we'll get started with our program. 5 habits to help you grow in your real estate business starting today. Number 1, lead generation. No exceptions. I don't care what business you're in. You need to be lead generating every single day, whether it's phone calls, text messages, smoke signals. I don't care, but we need to make sure we're having conversations. My opinion, block out at least 90 minutes per day, focused prospecting. Put it on your time block. Number 2, track and measure your numbers, guys. If we're not tracking and measuring our numbers, we don't see where we need our in-flight adjustments. Number 3, setting appointments daily. A day without a seller or buyer appointment should be a red flag in your business. Number 4, follow up like a pro. You've heard the term, the fortune is in the follow-up. This rings no more true right there. You must follow up like a pro. And number 5, role play, study scripts, internalize your messaging so it comes out freely and not scripted. You obviously want to use scripts, but you want to internalize those scripts. So practice them on a daily basis. Here's an interesting stat I want to drop you real quick. 78%, this is from Tom Ferry, approaching expired listings. 78% of sellers list with the first agent that contacts them after being expired. That's a big number. So if you're not prospecting expireds, you're missing out, in my personal opinion. Now, I'm going to share some of the tools before we get started. If you need to know how to get a hold of FSBOs, expireds, pre-foreclosure, I use My Plus Leads. I'll put it in the chat box. I've got a 14-day free trial. Check it out. If it works, awesome. Go out and take a bunch of listings. It's the best way to get in front of FSBOs, expireds, pre-foreclosure. And if you do not have a cash offer solution, you need one. In my opinion, iList USA, the cash offers platform, it's the best in the business. I've looked at them all. You can go in there and get a free trial there. You can run a cash offer on any FSBO or expired and have a very valid conversation with that seller. So go in there, check it out. It'll be in the chat box. One thing I want to point out before we get started is, are you driving traffic to your websites? First and foremost, this is Zillow. This is just an example. There's Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Homes, whatever. This is Zillow. The first day on the market, we had over 3,000 views, 199 saves. That's a lot of eyes on the property because we're driving this kind of traffic. This is Coach Kathy Ryan's open house. She had 884 people through the doors. That's a big number. I know as a lender, they're going, oh my God, look at all that opportunity. Buyer agents, everybody. It's a great, great way to drive traffic. Are you driving this kind of traffic to your open houses? Are you offering transparent offers to your buyers when they're coming in to write an offer? Are you offering that transparent bidding opportunity to drive the seller the highest and best price while removing the buyer's remorse and any all request for repairs? Ask yourself that question. Is your business efficient and effective? Well, I just spent 2+ years traveling the country with my wife and dog. We jumped in the motorhome and literally hit 22 states, stayed a 5-month period in Kentucky, all still taking listings because I was using via Zoom. That's a picture of me in Cabo, taking 4 listings on the beach in Cabo. So my point is, I'm not trying to preach. I'm just trying to introduce to you maybe some more efficient and effective ways to do your business. If you want to reach out to me, you want to drive traffic to your listings, I encourage you to reach out, use the QR code. It goes right to my calendar and we'll schedule a little bit of time. Sound good? That's my housekeeping. Just a couple of minutes to welcome you to the call. Let everybody get situated. Get your notepad out, get your pen. We're going to take some notes, guys. We've got Daniel Balkin, straight out of Balkin Title. I'm going to let him tell you the story, but this guy knows this stuff. Danny B, how are you doing, man?
Good. How's everybody doing today?
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I don't want to pump you up too much. I want to let you do that. But I tell you,
Oh man.
we've shared the stage in the REO short sales space back the last market around. We've trained, coached, mentored lots of agents across the country. And we did an event there most recently, the new era in real estate. That was a blast. Carl and I flew out and was up on the stage sharing it with you and a bunch of other really powerful people. So let's do this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because this is just a conversation with Danny Balkin, my friend, and my opinion is it probably one of the smartest real estate minds when it comes to this space. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, Danny, and we're going to get started. Let's see. So there he is right there. There he is. Let's go to speaker view. Let's go ahead and pin you, my friend, and let's go for it. So Danny Balkin, let's have a conversation about let's tell the let's tell the audience first things first. Who is Danny Balkin?
So Danny Balkin or Daniel Balkin or AKA Danny Short Sale is a current owner of a title company in Rhode Island. We service Rhode Island, Mass, and Connecticut. I got into the distressed property side of it back in the beginning of 2007 when the market obviously had completely flipped upside down. And it was weird because, I was running a title company, had no idea what was going on the left coast, as you guys call yourselves out that way. And I had a gal that, so I lived in Las Vegas for 8 years too. So let me give you a little background on that. I was born in Rhode Island, lived in Las Vegas for 8 years, created a lot of different relationships out there. So as the time was breaking down in Rhode Island, I made a lot of calls out west. And a girl named Brandy White Elk,
Oh,
had told me, because I'm like, Brandy, what's going on out there? And she's like, short sales. And I'm like, what's a short sale? I had no idea what it was. And she's like, it's when a lender accepts less than what they're owed. I go, why would anybody do that? Like, if I owed you $1,000 and I said, hey, I'm going to give you 50, you'd be like, nah, Dan, I'll wait. You can give me the whole $1,000. So the concept didn't make any sense to me. So she's like, fly me out there and I'll bring my staff. I'll do the seminar for you and I'll help you set up the negotiation side so that you're able to talk and contact the banks and negotiate short sales. So I was like, okay. I remember I went to the Sheraton in Providence and I remember it's as clear as day. Like all those hotel rooms, they all have capacity. And it said the maximum capacity in the room was 43 people. And I thought to myself, wow, if I got 43 realtors in this room, now don't forget, Most of my title business was all refinance because that was the big boom back there. I had no real estate partners to speak of. I go out, I peddled flyers, going to the old Remaxes and Caldwell Bankers and anybody that would listen. And I was stuffing mailboxes with flyers for this seminar. Well, lo and behold, 2 months later, we hold the seminar. I end up with 368 agents there. So, needless to say, I go to the small room. We go downstairs. The ballroom there only held 200. We split it up into two different times. And next thing you know, voila, Danny Balkin, the short sale guy. I knew nothing about them. And it's the perfect example of fake it till you make it. So Brandy stays a couple extra days, sets me up, and people are just start firing off short sales to me. So take that. Within a year, I am then being asked to speak nationally around the country. And this is where I met Bobby. Robert, what do they call you? Bob, Robbie, Bobby?
Whatever works, man. Just call
Bobby.
me. Just
Yeah.
call me.
And so a year later, I'm asked to go around the country, and I'm going to Five Star, Loss Mitigation Network. I'm in California, Texas, Florida, all the high distress areas and throughout the country. And we had a friend of ours named Jamie Bogle who had put Bobby and I together. And then it just kind of took off from there. You know, I had a full head of dark hair. Bobby had a face without light hair on it. And we just, you know, him and I really hit it off. And then we started going to these different seminars all over the country. And then people were contracting us. And in the course of all of that, I ended up negotiating somewhere around 5,000 short sales over the course of like 6 years. So that's my story on how I got introduced to short sales. I couldn't believe that it was even something that could even happen, but it did help me grow my business because at that point I had no realtor relationships. And fast forward now almost 20 years, because that's really when it started. My title company is solely based off of real estate relationships and lender relationships, doing purchase origination. So, and still doing education and still coaching and doing all of those things. So, you know, here we are kind of going down this little slippery slope again.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I tell you, it's certainly been fun. We've had a blast, and we're just getting started. Tell us, Danny, a little bit about Balkan title and closing. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with that, because I know you were with another company back in when we first met, and you've transitioned into a pretty powerful company. Tell us a little, expand on Balkan title.
Yeah, so Bulk and Title, obviously, we're a title and closing company. And in this part of the country, title and closing, or escrow and closing, are the same. So in parts of California, you have escrow agents and you have title agents. The difference here is we control it all. So you send the purchase and sales to us, we do the title search, we hold the escrow, we do the closing lending docs, and we record. So, you know, I opened Bulk and Title. It'll be actually June 1st, it'll be 10 years. I worked for attorneys for 12 and a half. And I kind of always use that story because a lot of it, I also see this a lot in real estate where people get their real estate license, they stay at a brokerage for a couple of years, they think they've learned it all, they'll go with their broker license and they try to open up and failure succeeds, right? Because you think you know everything about the business. And sometimes, you know, taking the slow road to the long-term gain is kind of how I looked at it. And, you know, with on my side with the legal documents and different things of that nature, that was the road I traveled. So, you know, here we are, you know, I have multiple state offices, I have 4 attorneys, you know, 9 paralegals myself. Um, and I still have an ear to the ground all over the country when it comes to short sales, loss mitigation, you know, and with great friendships like Robert, Bobby, we continue to evolve into better people. We have learned and listened and gone through a couple of different markets now. So for the newer agents that are on the call, and I find that to be, you know, anybody that got into the business 2018 and after, 2017 and after, you know, it seems like you're vested, you've been in this for 10 years, but the short sale game is where I get a ton of the questions from the newer agents.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, let's stay with that new agents before I forget. It's just you're curious. Bobby is because we're friends, but we're also business associates. So that's the confusion. So it's always nice
Yeah.
to hear when I hear Bobby because Bobby's what my wife and my kids and my family call me, my friend. So I love it. It's been
Well, when you come stay at my house and you have dinner with my wife, and you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah. We had a
that's where
good
our
time.
relationship has grown into.
We've had a blast. So let's talk about real quick the states. Now you mentioned how many states is bulk and title in?
I can do refinances in all 50 states.
Okay.
I produce title insurance and do real estate closings for purchases in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut.
Okay. And we did it those tour. We kind of toured those states, and that was a blast. So
Yeah.
Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut. So if somebody has a need for a short sale negotiation or whatever they're doing, are you negotiating or just handling the title and escrow?
So I've been, you know, fortunate and enough to, I've got about I have 8 short sales in my pipeline right now. And they're all from local, they've heard about me. They've actually never even seen me do a seminar. People say, oh, who does short sales? And then, everybody gets on Facebook and then they automatically, you get 50 referrals. Like, if somebody's asking, hey, who's a great lender? John Allen, John Allen, John Allen. Like if you saw that, like everybody's gonna be like, John Allen's our guy. And sometimes you get all different types of names, but typically like 90% of the people that refer all say me. So I've taken the task, not that I really wanted to do this just now, but I've taken the task to actually going back to negotiating the short sales myself. Not because I want to, trust me, when you're removed from something for so long, it's you lose track of it as well. So rather than try to train somebody on how to be a negotiator, because all of those people have kind of left the business, I wanted to see how the banks were reacting, because we still have high values, we still have, a bunch of different moratoriums in place. And so I thought the best way for me to teach it was to be in the trenches and back into it. So I'm a pain freak by nature, and doing this has been very painful. I literally am closing one Friday that I started a year ago.
Wow. Nothing short about that.
No. And the funny thing is, the first one that I took on a little over a year and a half ago, I got it done. I got an approval letter in 3 days. And I'm sitting, I'm going, damn, Balkan, I'm back, because it was like, but it was Bayview Loan Servicing. And the negotiator there remembered me, which
Wow.
was like out of this world, right? So I was like, he's like, no, I got you. Boom, 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 boom. I had a short sale approval in 3 days. And boy, was I like riding that wave. The short sale king's back. Did pick Dan Balkan, and here I am getting my head beat over with a club with Freedom Mortgage right now. And it's been a year and I finally got the approval and we're closing Friday. But I have another one going on with like I'm trying to think select portfolio or something. I have sent the package in 6 times and then they review the file. They don't tell you what you're missing because there's no negotiator, there's no email, there's nobody to talk to. And they send denial letters. They won't send it to me, they send it to the client. And the client's not opening their mail, even though I'm telling them to. If you don't get the document, I missed one the other day because they wanted an updated CD. They didn't tell me. I called in like, I'm calling in every 2 or 3 days. They sent the letter to the client. The file expired, and I just absolutely flipped out. Like it kind of felt good. Like you ever like get down the line so far with somebody and like you're just finally like done, and you like it's the 6th time I've sent all the documentation in. So the banks are not prepared. This was kind of like the beginning, Bobby, if you remember.
Yeah.
Like we would work with Bank of America for a year and a half. You'd call in expecting an approval letter, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have the file." Like literally did not have the file. And then as technology got better, they went to the Equator systems, and they then started. There was a lot more checks and balances. And a lot of what I realized was is that the mortgage companies, where they're very busy, so like the big companies like the Bank of Americas and all these other companies, all they did was that as the time was flying by, as the stress market was coming on, they moved all the underwriters and processors over to short sales. And so now you see a lot of those processors back in the mortgage side because, hey, it changed hands again. The processing side to short sales right now is very '07, '08, and very, very painful.
Nothing. Not tell you, there's nothing
And
fun.
I'm glad I stepped up for it. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Well, we do this, and I think it's important to point out is if you're paying attention to the notice of defaults and the notice of trustee sales in our market, in your personal market, pay attention to them. This isn't a doom and gloom call. This is a pay attention because I tell you what, most agents, like you mentioned, Danny, is before 2018, if you had your license after 2018, you have no
Yeah.
clue what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
you've only seen the market go this way.
Yeah, you have no clue what we're talking about. But I can tell you, there's people on this call right now that can know exactly what we're talking about. It's called being prepared, being positioned. It doesn't mean stop what you're doing currently to
Yeah.
generate business with FISBOs, expireds, whatever you're into, but
Yep.
pay attention to the default market. So what are you seeing with some of the banks now? You mentioned Freedom Mortgage taking forever,
Yeah.
but then the other one was right away. Bayview was right away.
Yep.
What are you seeing? I mean, like it's so hard to get a discount on something. Are you
Yeah.
starting to see it ease up a little bit? Is it starting to head in the right direction? Or are they making some
Well,
changes?
oh, let's go back to like market conditions right now, right? Because I would say, and I don't know, I'll like since 22, it's kind of just been like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't have like listings and overall inventory has still been low, and you're finding people right now. So I've been doing some classwork and doing some education and doing a lot of coaching with agents. And I will challenge the 2.5 interest rate up against the 6 or 7% interest rate any day, all day long. And I will tell you the 2.5% people are the people that you should be calling and prospecting because they're the ones that are in the worst shape that you can possibly imagine. The 7% people, the 6% people that we've sold from 22 to current, they're battle tested, right? High interest rates, high values of the properties. They've overcome inflation. They can pay the $6 or whatever it is out there for gas right now. I'm at like 5.25 or 5.50 for like gas right now, and that's Rhode Island. We're usually a couple dollars behind you guys. So think about the 2.5% person that got the $400,000 house that had a $2,000 mortgage payment. We'll just use that as a baseline of why I say the 2.5 to 3% people are in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
One, did the taxes go up or down since then? All taxes, I know everybody's property taxes, they've reassessed. So property taxes have gone up. Insurance has gone up. The cost of inflation right now per household in the United States, and again, it's relative to, it's probably higher in California, but the national average is almost $2,200 more a month still than it was in 2021 before, 2020 when COVID hit. When people were waiving inspections, how many agents had people that just waived inspections back in the day? Don't worry about it. You want your off expected. You better do inspections. One that ended up happening. How many calls did we get back? The boiler's going. We got to look at the foundation's cracked. The roof is leaking. People were taking equity lines to update properties, right? Because a lot of them were like, I call them Nana's house. They still had wallpaper on the walls. They still had, but people just wanted a house. So if you're like me, I went out and took a $100,000 equity line back in 2020 at 2.5%. That line right now is still at 7.24%. My payment went from $250 to $724, and they were as high as 9%. So think about the person again that had the 2000, 2.5% interest rate, add that onto that. At the end of the day, I've done so many closings where I was sitting down in the application when I'm signing the application at the closing, the borrower's income, 433.33. That's $50,000 a year. At $50,000 a year, that DTI or that debt to income ratio, and I know John can talk about this, they were qualifying people in some like government loans or even like state backed loans, like we have Rhode Island Housing. I'm sure you have California Housing, every housing 56, 57, 58% DTI in the back end. 58% of your gross income going towards the mortgage. You would have to be making today, that same person that has a $2,000 mortgage payment is at about $5,200 a month right now in overall expenses. So that would be going from making 50,000 to about 110 to $120,000 a year to cover that increase in inflation. And again, interest rate, taxes, insurance, and everything else. So if you think that the 2.5% people are safe, they're not. And that's what I try to talk about the new agents because they're like, nothing against the Tom Ferries and the Buffinis and all these guys. They're full of shit. I will coach up against them any day because they're like, don't you worry, interest rates are going to be 4.5% again. They go to the Remax, they're like, rah, rah, rah. And I've got an agent 2 years in the business telling me what Tom Ferry said. And I'm like, listen, Tom Ferry doesn't know, hasn't sold a house, doesn't do mortgages. I can tell you from what I'm seeing from my feet on the street of how people are reacting to this. And again, now you move forward, and let's not forget during the Biden administration, and this is not political, this is fact, that the mortgage COVID Relief Act, right? So they let everybody that if you couldn't pay your rent, you had subsidy. If you couldn't pay your mortgage, you had subsidy. It was all deferment. So all government loans, FHA, VA, HUD, Fannie and Freddie, who service government, they did not have to make a mortgage payment on the house. Now, I don't know if anybody's been doing any closings in California, but I can tell you right now, I just found my best one yet, 7 HUD mortgages recorded behind the first mortgage. They had not made a mortgage payments since March of 2020 on the property. It was $132,000 deferred. So people, it was supposed to end in 2003, in February of 2003. They were going to start collecting on those notes because they were 2 and 3 year notes to be paid back. Biden stepped in because obviously the economy was not good and inflation was still rising. He deferred them all the way until the end of October of 24. Basically, they kicked the can all the way down to the election. And now all of this is coming due. So these 2.5% interest rates where people couldn't afford their mortgages, they're equity stripping and they have no place to go. So as Bobby's telling you to call expires and FSBOs, I'd be on if you can get data on any FHA mortgage, USDA mortgage, any government-backed loan, I would be prospecting those clients right there. And what we've been doing is calling them again. One, they might be your past and current clients. They're all your current clients. They could have been past clients, but they're always going to be current. Start hitting your databases. They're tough calls, but like again, these are opportunities to talk about. And what I've been doing is doing a lot of filming inside my database. We all have technology now. And I'll sit there, just like sitting like we are now. And I got a golf shirt on, and maybe Bobby's sitting right next to me, and we're just really chill. And I'll just say, hey, Bob, you understand, like, people were at 2.5% interest rate. Yeah, inflation's still at $2,100 a month. People took out equity lines. These are the things that we're seeing because what I realized is nobody's just going to raise their hand and call you, right? We call it the ostrich effect. People put their head in the sand when we're not doing well. Like if we're not doing well in our relationship, do we tell everybody? No, we don't. So it's the same thing, marriage, house, economy. But what we're seeing is people are raising their hands. So I teamed up with a couple of my closest financial advisors. And what we're doing is we're advising people because they have equity still in the homes. And this is the big key. It's okay to do it wrong the first time, but let's look at the equity that you have right now and let's transition you out of this house and into other things. One, I'm seeing a lot of credit card debt, right? So we know we have overwhelming debt with credit cards. Let's pay the credit cards off. So let's take a client that bought in 2019, 20, or 21. They've probably got anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000 of equity in their property, but maybe can't pay the mortgage. So financial advisor, let's get their credit card debt paid. Let's get, they got children. Let's get their 529s in place for their college education. Let's set up a 401k for themselves. Let's get them, we could pay a year's rental with some of that money. We could get them in such a better financial position to be able to come back and buy with us again than we were. Because everybody talks about, and this is the first time home buyer pitfall, generational wealth if I pass down my house. You cannot pass down a house and generational wealth if you don't own it. So, that's what we've seen. They put the ostrich effect, the head goes in the sand, they tell nobody. And the next thing you know, you're going to see that house listed either for foreclosure or another agent got there ahead of you. And all of a sudden they're talking short sale.
Wow. That's one thing you said, and I want to make sure we go back to it. Buy when the time's right again. They're going to buy with us again. That's why I like reaching out. I mean, that's one of many reasons why I like reaching out to the notice of default market, for example. Those folks have no idea, ostrich effect, full effect, and they just no idea where to go. They're not reaching out to their family and friends because they are embarrassed by what's going on. If we reach out to them coming from contribution, guiding them through the process, let's get a hold of your mortgage company. Let's see what we can do to help you. Sometimes we can guide you in the right way. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not doing any of that, but helping them get out of their own way, basically, allowing them to figure out what their options are. Then I'm finding in most cases, they can't right the ship and they'll need to sell their home. Let's get them back on track so they buy it again from us. So we're doing great things for our community. Danny, what do we want to say to the agents that are thinking of wanting to get into working with default sellers, distressed sellers,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of reasons. Again, I always like to say I don't want anyone to lose their home, and I hope
Yeah.
everybody's in fantastic shape. That's just not the case. What do we
Sure.
want to say to the agent that would like to get into that space?
Yeah. So one, you've got to be a coddler. If you're a fast-paced power tie, power car, power suit agent, and you just show up like, bang, I'm gonna grab this listing, go get the go grab a Honda Accord, wear dress down slacks. Like people are distressed, so they don't need the big powerful agent to come in and tell them how great their house is and sell the features. And I'm going to sell this house in 2 days for you. You have to be a coddler here because these people are distressed. They're losing their home. They're behind on their mortgage. They've got a notice of default. They might have a foreclosure coming. So you have to be chameleon-like in this business. And this is going to be in the 19, 20, 21 agent, the Zillow person, the person that it was just raining real estate. That was a different sales. We've had to go to more features and learn how do we bring more value now to our clients because the market has been very flat. This particular market, if they're going to be declining, they need you as a coddler. You
Yeah.
have to understand the human feel with this one. If you think you're going to go in and overpower a seller because you're going to get that listing from them, I think that the listing should be the last thing you talk about.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree because I can tell you this because I keep track. A huge percentage of them, most all, I want to keep my home. What's your goal? I want to keep my home. Well,
Yeah.
I've contacted them because they are NOSA default, and God forbid they're at a NOSA trustee sale staring down the barrel of a foreclosure. They all want to keep their home, but not all of them can. So you have to come in with compassion.
Yeah.
So I think that's really
That's a good
important.
point. Because a
Yeah.
lot of people, the banks they'll still offer loan modifications. They'll still offer alternatives. The problem is when we were doing them in '07, '08, '09 in those areas, everybody heard about those 80/20s, those bad loans, you
Yeah.
know. Well, the person had a 6.5% interest rate on the first and like a 12 on the back. Those mortgage companies were doing loan modifications to 1%, and people still couldn't afford the house.
Mhm.
So here we are at 2.5% and 3%. Even if they modified it to 1%, what's the savings going to be? Most people, John, you probably tell me like, on a 500 or $600,000 house, when somebody refis down 1%, you're probably saving what, three or $400,000 on the payment. So if you're going to drop down and go from a $2,000 payment to a $1,700 payment, we'll just use that as the mark. That's used $300 usually isn't the make or break in somebody's life. Especially now we're looking. I just did a refinance 3 days ago, last week, $93,000 in credit card debt, 21 credit cards. Ladies, is that like going down the mall and just getting the credit card at every store that you could possibly get the 10% off? Because that's the only thing that I could possibly see. 21 credit cards, $93,000. She was paying like $3,800 a month in credit card debt.
Wow.
I got with it was from my financial advisor. We got her all paid out of that. We actually took $1,500 of that every month and put it into a 401k, self-directed 401k for herself because she had no retirement. And she still was saving like, I don't know, like $2,300 a month on the
Wow.
refinance. And
That's
she did
awesome.
not, and I'm sure John has a lot of these conversations. She just did not want to come off that. She had a 2.875 interest rate, and she just, in her mind, she was okay with paying 30% on credit cards until we finally broke her down and we had to show it to her, and she was ecstatic. Like honestly, like so it's game changing. And that's where, is I guarantee you've been on how many calls with Robert right now, and he's talked about sphere of influence, prospecting, making your calls, calling expireds, getting to your loan officers, getting to your financial advisors, get to your divorce attorneys, get to bankruptcy attorneys. Those are the people right now. If you're going to prospect, I mean, I date myself, open up the yellow pages, which they don't exist anymore.
No, that
But
didn't date you at all. You're good.
right, just
Just don't
just
use the Rolodex.
Yeah, right. It's like the map book where you had to find somewhere to get somewhere. You got to go to
Yeah.
F7 over to G1, but go and start prospecting because bankruptcy filings are up. Credit card debt is at an all-time high in the United States. So if you're linking like, oh my God, I just don't like calling FISBOs or I just don't like calling people. I'm not a cold caller. Well, one, start on your base that you've already sold, even if they're past, like if you were big into Zillow, because I know there was a lot of Zillow buy or Realtor.com buy, even if you did not close them, call them because those are the 2.5%, 3%. But start using your sphere to stop grabbing more business as an agent. Right now, all of those people are firing on all cylinders. My financial advisors, everybody's market, I mean, 401k, everything's, but he also has the flip side of that, that people that were not living within their means and inflation caught up to them. So I would use all of those. I mean, divorces are up. Most people get divorced because of finances, right? So you have a three for there. I always call them the three fors. You sell the house, they buy two more. That's a three for, right? So again, use your sphere because not only will you find some of this other business that you maybe have been missing out on, but also you'll see some of the distress because the bankruptcy attorneys and the divorce attorneys, they're the ones splitting up assets for clients.
Yeah. No, I dig that. I think it's definitely a niche market and it's not for the weak. I tell you,
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of skin in the game. But what are you seeing? I know there was a question that we had with Loan Depot. Have you talked to them about short sales? What's their
I
take with Loan
I
Depot?
got one right now. I literally have one right now. So the other thing is that I've had some issues is we used to be able to have direct contact with the banks, and a lot of the banks have gone to portals.
Yeah.
So Loan Depot, I could not um engage in a short sale outside of the client's payment portal. So like when most of us go on, they go to this site, the servicing site, and then it asks you, do you want a loan modification or you need help? I had to go through a whole process with Loan Depot just to get into the portal to start helping the people. They would do everything in the portal and nothing outside. So again, this is why I kind of wanted to take on the challenge again of doing short sales because I'm going to need to coach. I'm going to need to explore, and I'm going to have to give agents, people that are listening on this, people that'll be listening to it, and anybody in my area that I can touch, or as if we start getting back on the road show again, Bobby, doing, the church, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Billy Circus. Um, I want to be able to give the best advice. And that's what got me to the forefront from somebody that didn't know anything about short sales to traveling around with Bobby all over the country to influencing. And I still believe, though, I'm having a lot of success doing video. So if people like video or they're just not like they don't want to cold call, use your CRM. Use your CRM that your team has, your agency has. Somebody like Bobby probably has, I don't know, how many people in his CRM, dude? That
I have way too
100,000?
many, way too many.
Right. I mean, from your family down, when they weren't even keeping records, I've been doing a lot of the video libraries, little 20, 30-second clips. Hey, I know that times are tough right now. Do you know that credit card debt's at an all-time high? Call me, and put that away. And again, with all of the CRMs, it's creepy because you know exactly how many times they watched it, who clicked on it, so again, we want to get people on the other side of our web. So that's why, like, I feel like video, the game has changed. There's a lot of people having success with direct mail again. Whereas like before, direct mail is just like rip, I don't know. I did them in yellow postcards with sinking ships. I did them in brown paper bags, sending them to people. I've done so many different marketing techniques, but weirdly enough, direct mail right now and video inside the CRM because they can watch it themselves and they can do this without having to wave their hand in a seminar or they come out of their shell. So think of different ways that we can strategically do it. And then this way you can kind of show your softer side too. Again, you have your platform, power tie, power car, power suit, but you also have this nice coddling, a very effective somebody that's there for help.
Sure. My dad told me a long time ago, don't outdress your clientele. And I think that's could be more true. We have another question. Let's get to that, Danny.
Yeah, looks
Uh,
like we got a bunch of questions coming in, huh?
let's get to our Q&A. You good with some Q&A, my friend?
Love it.
Let's do it. So we got from Greg. Have Dan had any appraisal issues with FHA VA doing the appraisal up front? How are values coming into list price? What do
So
you see?
the government loans are actually nice if we approach it correctly. So a lot of times in discovery and listing, we should certainly find out what type of loan they have because they still do what's called an ATP letter, and that's approval to participate. So any government loan, the government, like we can actually, without even having a contract, without having, we just need a listing agreement and maybe a small borrower financial package, and the banks will go out and do the appraisals. So before we get ourselves, you know, let me just go back 1 second before that. What I'm finding is between list price and what the net is real close in a lot of situations. That's what we haven't had that big 10, 20, 30, 40% drop off in like we saw back in the day. So a lot of times we're listing a property and I get the call from the agent like, it's so close to what their payoff is, but I just can't get the commissions in there. You know what I mean? So it becomes this little slippery slope of like, am I trying to get 6% commission? Am I trying to get 4% commission? And then this is where like your value add, obviously with the NAR decision, hey, this client isn't offering any commission. Obviously the seller's not willing to pay. I know it's negotiable, but that might be a buyer side exclusive where the buyer only pays you the premium. And maybe you do the listing for just 2%. And if you had a 2% listing instead of a 6% listing, would the number work? Jump forward. But the FHA or any government loan, you can get kind of like a pre-qualified short sale, and the bank will tell us what their value came back at. So now you have a great listing price, and also you have a net. So they tell you how much commission you can pay. And almost all government short sales are a 6% commission. So that's a really nice feature too, just because if you're worried about commissions, it's almost like a guaranteed, but the approval to participate. So it's an ATP letter and it's like a pre-approved short sale. Now you can take that, get it back on the market at the number that it's approved, and then your memo and your notes, pre-approved short sale. This way, nobody's playing games with you either. And that's what I find. Like, so some of the ones that I've had to resubmit a bunch of times, they weren't FHA, they weren't, and it was conventional, and it was a game. And some of the ones that I've had for the federal or the FHA, I've had those ATP letters in place, and then we go, okay, here's the list price, here's what the net is, here's what they pay for commissions, and then we can put that on the market on MLS, short sale approved. And now you want to talk about volume coming to your listings.
Yeah,
And
no, I'd
maybe,
love that.
and then now if that's not your only listing type, obviously this is where short sales become very interesting because if if it's anything like in California or any other part of the country, the off market game has gotten, it's as good as the on market game, right? So flippers, floppers, investors, anybody that can find a deal, you end up finding a ton of activity on these properties. Now, what does that do? One, maybe you have other listings that you can bring those clients to. Two, everybody wants relationships with new investors, guys that have private money, guys that are equity guys that want to buy property. Again, you're setting up your data for down the line, not only for just that one property, but the ATP letter, that value usually comes in pretty good.
Good. I love it. Well, thanks for that. Got a couple other questions. Your thoughts on,
And if you guys, I mean, Robert will give you my information.
yeah,
I could talk forever, guys. So like, I know I get a little sidetracked, so I don't want to, like, I can have more of an in-depth conversation about how to get those FHAs going.
yeah, no, I love it, man. That's great. And I'll drop everybody Danny's information. And Dan, if you can maybe put your information in the chat box if you want, or I could send it out,
Okay,
whichever is easiest for you. I got another
sure.
question. There's some certification training out there. Michael Krine and Bubba, they have a short sale certification. What do you know about those guys? Anything to give feedback on that?
You know, well, Bobby, we used to do certifications,
Yeah, yeah.
and I some of them were good, some of them were just, it I think educating yourself, I don't care. You can have all the acronyms you want after your name. I think somebody that's in distress, if we're talking strictly short sales, I don't know, having a short sale designation, I don't know if that really matters to the client. This is not like, you don't like, again, when you're going in with power tie and your percentages, like you have a good listing presentation of how great you are, and you get everybody 7% more than the average agent in California or anywhere in the country, like you can sell those perks and features and benefits. I think this sale, educate yourself regardless of what designation you're going to get. Designations to me are okay, but I'm not a realtor, so I don't want to sit here and disqualify them because everybody likes the acronyms. But some of these, I think, certifications that you get, check who the instructor is, see their background and the information. I'll give you a college degree right now without ever putting a degree in your hand of doing 5,000 short sales, traveling around the country. And if you really want to learn, then we can pull our sleeves up.
There we go.
But
I
the
love it.
designations are
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. And Dan, you put
less
your,
about designation, more about the portal and bank lenders, short sale clients to find you.
Yeah, for me, I've done short sales, my fair duty. Hi, Dan. Thanks for doing this.
Right. Yeah.
I could care less about the certification. And like you said, makes no difference to me. I'm
Right.
more concerned about, I know that Krein and Baba have a lot of connections in the lender world, and I know that a lender can't make you use an agent or even suggest one agent, but they can say, "Oh, go to this website and you'll find, these great short sale agents on there," or go to, CDPE, you'll find them on there, or go to what's the other one I mentioned? I mentioned three of them.
Yeah.
Equator,
That's what I was curious. Oh, Equator has a
Yeah.
certification on
Yeah.
there, so.
Right.
I've got all three of them, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering what your thoughts are on being
Well,
able to get
I would,
business.
I would, I would probably think that those are all great ones. Some of them are older, like the Equator short sale, the CDPE. I remember all these from 2007 and 8 and 9. Um,
Yeah,
Short sales went away for the last 10 years. So I think the new set of buyers that will be, or the new set of clients that will be short selling are probably not anybody that's going to know any of those, right? And
agreed.
I'm not disqualifying it. I just think you could spend your time self-marketing now better than having certifications or designations. Meaning, what if you were to take some small reels and you could, instead of, I don't know, a lot of people now, I don't know how many people, like obviously Zillow bankrupted a lot of people recently, and now they're doing the Flex program, which is going to bankrupt teams of trying to gain more, and you got to be on their platform, and then you have to give them their lenders. I think that if you could take some of your marketing or your spend that you were spending on, say, Zillow or Realtor or any of these other applications, why not do some small 20, 30-second reels and buy? You can go on Facebook and start buying some zip codes for $10, $20 and start trialing it. You know what I mean? Hey, are you behind on your mortgage? Call me. $5, throw it in your area code. I think you can use the Google spends. People are going to be different now than ever. Everybody is in an information age, so I just think that, again, I could be off with this, but I'm seeing the trend go more towards social media and more in-depth finding through a chat GPT than these certifications just yet. Maybe if it ever explodes. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I just think they're not talking about half the market right now, which is those 2.5% people, the people that have all the HUD-backed seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths that haven't. I told you, I just did a closing. Since 5 years, they've been in the house without a mortgage payment, and all they did was defer it. The agent went to the listing, and the client told them they owed $350,000. So what do you think as the agent? All right, great. I got my CMA, I got my everything in place. We're going to get you 485 for this house.
Right.
Great. Now they're counting. I got $135,000 coming back of equity. Take out the commissions. Maybe you walk away with 100. We did the title search. They were upside down $47,000 because of
Yeah.
those backed. So I think we can use um, some other new methods than, again, the certifications. And Bob, maybe you know better because you're still kind of in that circuit doing, like, I know you've been back in kind of doing some of the stuff at like RealMac and things of that nature. Are they starting to ramp up? Because I'm a little disconnected from it right now. Are they starting to ramp up the certifications?
you know what I'm seeing more and more, and that's kind of what Jeff's question was, is more than the certification, it's more of the relationship building and a way for customers to locate you.
Oh,
The banks are, going in and, they're getting relationships with different banks saying, hey, these guys have been trained and certified. This is who we suggest and recommend. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing people starting to pay attention to the default space more than ever. You can tell by the calls that RioMac, now called NADP, their calls are getting more and more popular. The events are getting more and more crowded. Whereas you go, it's, you, me, and a couple other guys looking at each other at the bar to, packed house. So I think you're starting to see the buzz, and I think you're going to start seeing a lot more than that because more and more people are paying attention. So yeah, I do see people paying attention to that. So I do have a couple more questions real quick. Danny,
I like Seth's. I like Seth's. That might
yeah,
be something I might have to use right there, Seth, going in with the old CFPB. I'm going to file some lawsuits against you.
yeah, yeah. So, and Seth has another question. What are your thoughts on third-party negotiators on short sales?
Yeah, so that's where I made my living. That's where we were in that space. It takes a lot of the onus off of you in document collection. It also, you don't have, the E&O to carry negotiations either. That was always the big thing about having a law firm or a third party company.
Yeah.
And then again, it's just a nice pass off to have your clients have to deal with somebody that understands the process, and then you're not responsible for everything that happens in their life. You become the helper. You've edified the third party or the Dan Balkan of the world. Now I will tell you that years ago, when I had pretty much the first attorney short sale based model in the country, that was one of the things that I was able to grow and walk around and talk around the country with. The banks used to pay a really good fee to us to do the third party negotiation. So your commission stayed with you. I was able to grab, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, sometimes 10,000 on a file. So towards the end, and what I've seen, that one with Freedom that just took me a year, after the guidelines they went through, they paid me nothing.
Whoa.
Now, a year in, listen, it's okay. Like, honestly, I learned my lesson because it was like, I always had this feeling like I can't charge the agents. They're my clients. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to pay. I'll do it myself. So I probably will change my model a little bit, whereas like I might just, because I know most of the banks are paying 6%. So I may go to a model where from a third party standpoint, I may charge 1%. And now it can come from the agent, it can come from the agents, it can come from the buyer, it can come from the seller. I have different boxes that you can check off on it. But I think again, if you're out prospecting, if you're the agent and you want to negotiate short sales yourself, I mean, it's extra work. You know what I mean? Maybe learn the process though, if it's this early, and then get to the point where you know enough to talk to the clients, and then you can pass it off to like a third party company.
Like a transaction coordinator, no different.
Yeah. And like, hey, I know agents that, became really good at it in their office. So like, if you're in an EXP office and you've got, or if you're in an organization where your downline's 100 people or 200 or 300 people,
Yeah.
Hey, why not become the negotiator of the group?
I love it. Hey, we got one more question before we get going, and we're at the top of the hour.
Okay.
I want to bring up John real quick as well. Question here. This is a good one. Are HOAs playing ball better in this new phase of short sales? Are you seeing that? Because they're a nightmare usually.
Any of the third party outside of the mortgage become an issue. And
Yeah.
so, no, I haven't had any issues with the HOAs, but I got to be honest with you, I haven't really done a lot of HOA stuff because Rhode Island and Massachusetts are not huge HOA places. You have these huge like communities out in California and Florida and different parts of the countries where the HOAs are a big part of it. I know that they still pay they'll pay a couple of liens on the property, whether it's, a HUD lien. But it's still to be known. The other thing that like I'm going to be interested in seeing is how about all the solar that's been put on the houses that are in default as well.
Yeah.
Right. So you got $100,000, right? We did closings. We transferred the solar over from seller to buyer. And all of a sudden we've got a $60,000 or $100,000 bill on the back end, and the solar company is not going to get paid. How do they release that lien? Now, do they get in the way and not do it? Because those are some of the ones I know that those are going to be some big ticket items that are going to be on the back of the title. So we're in this new era, but we're also in like that's why I want to do these myself right now. Not because I want to continue to get hit over the head, but I want to be able to pass this information along like in 2 or 3 months when we're like, oh my God, it's raining short sales, or it could be. I want to be able to pass this along to educate everybody. So when we're having these conversations with the clients, or better yet, the other agents, we're qualifying those buyers to stay in the deals longer. We're qualifying those agents to stay in the deal longer and have them know the better of the timelines.
I love it. One last thing, I know that Lawrence put in a link in the chat for if you want to do your circle of influence. He's our circle of influence coach for FISBOs. It's their marketing. It's a great little link there. Thank you, Lawrence, for doing that. Danny, I want to thank you for jumping on. Stick around. We're just going to go real quick to John Allen as we close out the More Listings Mastermind. John, wow, a lot of stuff going on in that space. Can you give us a quick update, the Mortgage Minute? Let's close it out with the Mortgage Minute. We'll say goodbye to Danny, and then we'll wrap it up today. John, what's going on in mortgage?
Well, she said so many good things that are so resonate so clearly today.
Yeah.
Dan, really good stuff there.
Yeah.
I really say the bond market right now, look, it's schizophrenic. It's kind of all over the place. It's reacting, it's very volatile, reacting to news of Iran, the Strait of Hormuz. It is playing havoc with the bond market, and it's trying to lock a good loan and even pre-qualify people and set expectation is a bullseye on a rough ship in a crosswind. It's really tough. So, I mean, you got to have a little bit of wiggle room these days. This will pass, and that's fine. But a couple things that were really interesting, and I want to share this story. You know, Jared, Bobby, me and Jared go up to Yorba Linda, Nixon Library a couple times or once a year the past couple of years. Black tie event, they have the economist for Fannie and Freddie. He said something very, very impactful to me, which was the amount of people at the capped DTI was higher than they've ever seen it ever, ever, ever. And that story was reminded to me when Dan was talking about it, and it's a really good point. And for those of you who don't know, I also own and operate Action Foreclosure Services. So we do private money trustee services in California, and that's sort of a bellwether because it's private money. I am seeing defaults climb up. We're opening more files this year. In 2 weeks, we opened more files than, entire months of last year. Now, that's not the primary residence space, but it's a bellwether. In a lot of cases, we worked foreclosures all through 2006, 7, 8, 9. I mean, this company is since 1990, so we've seen things come and go. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that. So for the purposes of this and short sales, this I absolutely see this coming back. I think just loan wise and mortgage minute wise, I think the good point is like I agree with them. The battle tested at the higher rate right now, those are actually a lot better off. I couldn't agree with you more, Dan. There's some people with the twos that just overspend and then they're in real trouble with credit cards and things like that. Um, I've probably gone over a minute, but those are some key points that I'm taking away from the talk that I wanted to share.
No, John, you know what? You're always welcome to. You've got a lot of just amazing background. Not only are you a great lender, a great drummer, but you really know the default space. So I appreciate that, my friend. Danny, I want to personally thank you for coming on to the More Listings Mastermind. You are awesome. I know you put your information in the chat box. Thank you. Anyone has any questions? I know Seth had some questions. You guys should collaborate. They're doing their own negotiations. I'm like Jeff Russell. That I look at doing the TC work or negotiations is if I just want to go out and get brain damage, I'll do that. So that's not how I do it. But I certainly think that there's an opportunity to not only help people navigate the murky waters in front of them, but also be a resource for not only the consumer, but also the corporate seller when it becomes that time. Because not always do they get to save their home, and that happens. I appreciate everybody for jumping on today. We have had some just amazing questions, Danny. I look forward to Danny 2.0. We'll get you back on and really do a deep dive as this market starts to take off, because it certainly will. Get positioned, get ready. And I tell you what, it's not for everyone, but I'm telling you what, it's certainly a great business. One last thing I'd like to talk about is next Wednesday, April 1st. We're having a lunch and learn live in San Diego. So we won't be live on Zoom. We'll be live in San Diego. Lunch and learn 12:30. The event starts at 1. We'll be down in Mission Valley. I call it Commission Valley. Foundation Escrow on Mission Center. All the information will be sent out to everybody.
I'm coming.
I recommend you come check it out. And Danny, any closing remarks for our guests?
I'll be there next week.
Come on by, brother. Anything else you'd like to say to our friends?
No, I think that let's continue, even if it's something that we can put together and do a little more, so it's maybe a little more focused on, and I can do a little bit of more of like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And kind of go through some of these things, and not for a CE class, but maybe just take some time, and Bobby, you and I can work on that.
Yeah.
Maybe just put something together to kind of give a better outline of, what we're looking at. And then this way we can kind of apply it.
Well, I certainly look forward to
share some strategies and tricks.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I look forward to that. And John, thanks again for everything. You keep bringing so much value. Thank you so much. Everybody have any questions? You want to take more listings, maximize your success in 2026? I encourage you to click that QR code. Let's have a conversation. Let's take a look under the hood. Until next week, thanks for tuning in to the More Listings Mastermind. I'm your host, Robert Weichelt, and we'll see you in escrow.